There you go.
Okay. So first of all, Justin, maybe you can just tell me. I'm gonna interview you. Just you didn't know this, but so maybe you can say what you studied, articles, and then your current job and how long you've been there.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah. So I. Yeah, okay, let me go back. At school, I wanted to be a marine biologist, believe it or not. Okay. But that soon changed. After school, I studied finance. So I did 3 years at varsity, doing a BCom. I did an honors year, and then went straight into articles at KPMG in Durban. And I qualified at the end of 2008. So, yeah, then.
And then after that, what did you do after articles?
So after articles, I actually went overseas for 3 years. So I lived in the UK for 3 years. I worked as a business finance analyst in a law firm of all places. So trying to convince lawyers how to make money. It was very interesting. I came back and actually joined one of my audit clients back in South Africa when I returned. I was in finance there for about 3.5 years. I then got bored of it. So about what's that? 8 years ago, I left finance and I went into retail operations. And yeah, far more enjoyable. And then after I was in for about 1.5 years and was fighting with the supply chain, and they said, well, if you know what the problem is, go and fix it. And that was 8 years ago. So I'm still in supply chain since then. So yeah, I'm not in finance anymore, Steve.
Amen. You're lucky. You're lucky. Anyway, guys, Justin, over to you.
Thanks, Steve. Thank you. Yeah, good evening, everyone. And yeah, great to be here and great to see so many faces. A lot of you I don't know, which is great. So I hope this evening is all that you have come to see and more. Sorry? Well, that's not going to happen tonight, Steve. I think I do mention that somewhere in the slides, Raj. I think just to start off with as an intro, and I had that all in my intro, but that's fine. It's done now. Steve touched on 2 of the 3 things that I wanted to say. Why we're here tonight. I think the one is to help us steward better or steward well, which is what Steve and which is what I spoke about in my preach 10 days ago. The second one is financial freedom, so going after that. And the one thing I will say is that it doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey, okay? So let's be real about that. The third thing that I wanted to add to that is that with financial freedom, what ultimately is it that we want to do with it? And one of the things that's on my heart is to be able to be generous. Okay, so generosity that comes out of that. So I really believe that those are the 3 things this evening that kind of the Lord has put on my heart, and Steve mentioned 2 of them. I think if I ask the question, where's my heart with this? My heart is really to share knowledge. My heart is to be able to impart information to people that they can have a different point of view. So that when you're in a situation, you might have a little bit more tools, hints, tips, ideas, things to turn to in the situation that you're in. Or it might raise a question that can lead you down a path that might enable you to find the right answer. So I think this evening also I'd like you to take the principles of what I'm trying to share. Okay, so don't look at, yes, there are going to be numbers. You can't do a financial thing without looking at numbers. Don't look at the numbers. Take the principle of what's there. Okay, so please, like that is a key thing out of this evening. It's also about being practical tonight. Okay, so I'm happy to have questions. Okay, so tonight is practical. I said to Steve, how much of this do you want me to do a preach on, or how much do you want me to be practical? So I've got one slide on scripture and that, but the rest we're going to jump into some practical things. Okay, so it's planned like that on purpose. Okay. The last point I just want to say is that everyone is in a different space. Okay, everyone is at a different place. Everyone has a different situation that they're in, and everyone has different opinions and ideas. Okay, so it's really critical that you take with what I'm sharing and try and apply it to your situation. Maybe it doesn't apply to your situation. For example, how many business owners are here? So if you own your own business, put your hand up. Okay, so there's 3, 4, 5. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about debt tonight. Okay, I've got an opinion on debt, looking at it from a personal situation. When you look at it from a business situation, it might look slightly different. Okay, so what I really want you to do is take what I am sharing and try and apply it to your situation. We are all in a different space. Okay. Key, can you go over? Sorry, this is not working tonight, so it's going to be very, very interesting. Okay, next. Okay, so 3 of the scriptures that I want to look at this evening. Okay, Luke 14, verse 28. For which of you desiring to build a tower does not first sit down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it? Okay, I'm not going to talk a lot on the scriptures, but really what this is saying is 2 things. That it's biblical to plan, okay? And it's biblical to understand. Okay, and when I read that scripture, okay, the word budget comes around in my head. Okay, being an accountant, maybe someone sees something else in that, but that's what jumps into my head. We need to understand and we need to plan for the future. We need to plan ahead where we are going. Okay, Keegs, the next one. Okay, Matthew 10:16. I spoke about this in my preach on Sunday a week ago. I'm sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves. And the verse is not specifically in the context talking about finances, okay, in the context as which it is read. But I think what it's saying to us is that we live in a world where not everyone is looking for our best interests, okay? Like, let's be real. And we need to have a knowledge that ensures that our interests are looked after, especially when we are in the business world and when we are trying to do deals and buy cars and buy credit and take out loans and whatever it is, rent a property. So it really, and I actually love this. As a Christian, it's saying, understand everything, okay, but still honor the Lord in the way you portray yourself out there in the world. So I really want you to keep that in mind going through this. And there are some hints, tips, tricks that we'll talk about later. Okay, and maybe some of you have heard them or seen them or understand them, but hopefully there's some here that will get something out of it. Okay, next one. Okay, Proverbs 22, verse 7. Just as the rich rule the poor, so the borrower is a servant to the lender. And I spoke about this also in my preach. And really, this verse is about debt. Okay, and as I said in my preach, there's a lot to be said for the lender. Okay, and you can have a whole preach on the lender's side, okay, about what position you take when you are a lender. But from a borrower's perspective is, do we want to be servants or slaves to that debt? And I believe the answer is no. We don't want to be a slave to the debt. So I do talk about debt in quite a lot in the second half of this discussion. So yeah, I'm hoping that people get a lot out of that section on debt. I think as Christians, um, it has to be our goal to get rid of debt in our lives. Okay, the Bible talks about being free of debt. Okay, and I do have a slightly controversial slide. Is okay. Well, in what ways can debt be positive? Because I'm trying to like open people's minds to this, but I think as in our personal lives and our personal capacities, we've got to try and eradicate debt from our lives. Okay. All right, Keek, next one. Okay, so I said to you that the one verse brought up budgets. And if you don't know or didn't read any of the advertising, effectively tonight we're going to be talking about budgeting and we're going to be talking about debt. Those are the two big topics that I'm covering this evening. Okay, so budgeting is a very interesting for me because some people have things to say about a budget. Okay, if you've got a spreadsheet, all your worries have gone away, kind of thing. Okay, which is not the truth. But you have to be able to understand where your money is spent if you want to manage it. Okay, you have to. So my question is, it would be interesting, and this isn't a test, as Stephen said, but who does have a budget here? Have you got a written down budget? Who does have one? Okay, that's great. That's awesome. It's a very interesting thing, a budget, because you have to look at this and you look at the numbers and you say, oh, it doesn't add up, man. This is not working for me. Okay, but at least it plants the seed that some decision needs to be made. So why do you budget? To understand where your money is spent. Okay, Keeg, next one. Okay, you can't manage what you don't measure. Okay, it's a hard one. It's a really difficult point, okay? But if you have a budget, but you don't compare what you actually spent, okay, to what your budget was, what's the point? Okay, at least you've started with the budget, but take it to the next level and say, okay, I went wrong this month. What did I do wrong? How can I change it next month? Okay, next one, Keith. Okay, a budget forces you to set goals. Okay, if you've got a goal, hey, I want to buy a Ferrari next year, and my budget shows that I'm overspending every month and I can't save anything. Well, actually, you're never going to get there. Okay, so if you've got a goal to get somewhere, does your budget reflect what your goal is? Okay, next, keys. Okay, understanding what you can or can't afford. I've said that in the previous bullet point, but I think sometimes we are going after something that is unaffordable, to put it bluntly. Okay, and what is the reality of the situation? Are we being forced into a position to make something work, or is it a realistic thing that actually I can't afford this? So it puts you in the mindset of what can I or what can't I afford in the situation that I'm in. And it's like it's there for you to see, and you got to make a decision about that. Okay, next. Okay, making changes to align with your goals. I think that's self-explanatory with what I've just said. If you have a goal to buy a Ferrari and your budget doesn't allow you to save, well, what are you going to change? Okay, either I've got to sell my holiday home, or I've kind of can't go on the overseas holiday twice a year, or whatever it is. Okay, you've got to make a change, and it forces you to do that. Next, Keegs. Okay, this is really basic stuff, but just the makeup of a budget. You've got income, you've got expenses and debt payments. Disposable income is effectively the money you have left to decide what you want to do with it. Okay, at the end of so you might hear people saying, what is your disposable income? Your disposable income is what's left over once everything is paid, and then you've got a decision to make. What should I do with that money? Okay, saving and investment in retirement. Steve's going to talk to that next week. Okay, and hopefully the goal is that you get to a place where you can have disposable income and make decisions about saving and retirement and investing. That's the goal, and I'll talk to that process on the next slide. Okay, next. A big question, and if there's anything out of tonight that you want to take away, how much of your budget goes towards paying debt? Okay, how much of your budget goes towards paying debt? So a loan, a home loan, a car loan, a credit card, you name it, whatever it is. What percentage of your budget goes towards debt? And I'll talk about that in more detail, because I think that's also a determining factor on the health of your financial position. Okay, and a small thing that becomes a big thing is, does your budget include all the small things that add up to big things? Okay, because this is what tricks us and traps us up and causes us to slip up. So bank charges, yes, it might be 200, 300, 400 rand, whatever, but it's a chunk of money that disappears every month. Okay, interest on a credit card, you never see that. You never see it. Okay, but it's there. A coffee a day, oh no, I'll just zapper this. Okay, 30 rand, or what was it, 35 rand at 30 days is like $1,000 a month. Is your coffee a day on your budget? Gifts and presents. I know when we were first married, this was a contentious issue. So we promise you we had this in our budget. So, we all get invited to parties and bras and, all of that type of socializing. And yes, we want to be generous, we want to take food, we want to this, that, and the next thing, but that all adds up, over the month. Lots of small things add up. And I work in retail, and I promise you, lots of small things add up. Okay. 1 cent over a lot makes a lot. Okay. So, but I think that the key here, guys, goes back to the first bullet point. Understand where your money is spent, okay? We don't do this now. Maybe I'm sharing too much, but in the beginning, when we were first married, we literally downloaded our bank statements into Excel. That's literally what we did. It was, and we were at that stage where we were counting everything. But we had a goal, absolutely. So we had a goal. I shared a little bit about that in my preach. When we first got married, we had no assets. We had a big loan that we owed, and we needed to buy a car. It wasn't the easiest situation that we were in. We had a goal, and we stuck through that to get through it. And yes, it took years. We also knew we were going overseas in 3 years' time, and how were we going to save to be able to get us overseas? It was hard, but that's how we did it, being in the detail. Okay, Keegs? And the big one that trips a lot of people up is, what are your ad-hoc costs? Okay, when your car breaks down and you have to take it for a service, Rich, I'm glad you're here. And it's important because people think, okay, I've got my budget, everything's fine, and then you get a 10 grand cost 1 month that you probably only get every 2 years. So how have you budgeted for it? And there's 2 ways to do it. You either inflate your budget expenses every month and you save that money, or you put it into a savings account and you put it away. Okay, but that's a big one that traps people up. Sitting doing a budget, what are your ad hoc costs that come up, and plan for those? Okay, next, Keeks. Okay, I've said that. Tracking of actual versus plan. There's no point in having a plan if you're not actually viewing where you are against that plan and what you can change to make it improve. Okay, next. Okay, this here, guys, I sat for many days trying to put this together, and the reality is I've left numbers off it for a reason. Okay, there are no numbers on this slide. Okay, there are no percentages. There's no, when you look at the colors, don't try and do the maths. Describe to you as where are we now? So put yourself in one of these blocks or a block in between those, and where do we want to go towards? So what I've done here is I've broken up our budgets into debt repayments in the red, fixed costs, and I'll give some examples, in the orange, discretionary, so what we can decide to do with our money, in the yellow, saving and investment in the green, and disposable income in the blue. So disposable is our leftover. Okay, Keegs, do one more, please. Okay, so repayments or debt repayments. Okay, store debt, mortgage, car debt, loans, credit cards. Okay, and what I'm trying to show in this slide is that if you sit here, that the majority of your budget is orange and red, okay, you need improvement. So we want to go this way. Okay, this is slightly better. You've got a bit of green and blue at the top. And then what's the goal? Okay, we want more green and blue at the top. So that's how you read this. And as I said, there are no numbers, there are no percentages. I'm trying to share with you the practical, the theory behind it. Okay, so I'm not saying you must have 10% debt in your life. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, I'm trying to share what our goal should be. Okay, next one, Keeks. Okay, fixed costs. Okay, we all have costs that we pay every month. Insurance, security, medical aid, tithe, school fees, electricity and water, bank charges, rates, rental, tithe. I'll say it again, tithe. Okay. All right. Those are costs that are there every month. Okay, we have to budget for them, we have to pay them, etc., etc. Okay, so we don't really have much of a choice in that. And someone might say, well, why is rental there and your mortgage is below? Well, the reality is you can get out of a rental, you can go and live with someone else, move into a smaller place, pay a smaller rental. So I put it under fixed costs. You could put it under repayments. If you really want to say your rental for the next 2 years, that's fine. At the end of the day, the orange and the red is kind of added together. Okay, next, Keys. Okay, discretionary. Okay, this is stuff that you have control over. You can change. You can eat less. You can... No, I'm being... You cannot shop at Woolies and go and shop at some other at Boxer. There you go. Okay, okay, presents and giving. Okay, holidays, clothing, extra lessons, entertainment, fuel. Try and work from home. I don't know. Don't go to work. But okay, maintenance, extramurals, house sitters, all the stuff that, each month you have a decision to make. You can increase it. You've got a little bit of space to play with. Okay, next one. Okay, saving and investment, fixed deposits, cash, shares, retirement annuities. Okay, this is for Ross, Bitcoin, and it's a fixed cost. Okay, and and provident funds. So that's money that you're putting away for the future. You're investing that to Steve for next week. Okay, the next one, Keeks. Okay, and then disposable. And this is, I think, where I'm going to with financial freedom is where do you then control the decisions that you're making with your finances? What decisions are you in control of? Okay, what's your rainy day fund? Can you bless someone? Can you donate money? You then have the power to make decisions with what you have. And that's like ultimately what we want to get towards or grow to. Okay, all right, next. Okay, guys, please, as I said, that slide is, I'm going to say it for the third time. There are no numbers, there's no percentages, there's nothing on that slide. It's a theoretical understanding of where we want to get to. Okay, and everyone is different. Okay, but I'm trying to just impart some practical knowledge to people. Okay, I think can I take some questions? Because I'm going to go on to debt now. So, okay, that's my budgeting section over with, okay? I've made it quick, simple. Is there any questions on budgeting? I'm going to go on to debt now, but if there's anything, we will have time at the end as well, so you don't have to ask now. But while the topic is hot, is there any questions on budgeting? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
You mentioned comparing the budget to your actual expenses. And you also mentioned initially you were downloading your bank statements.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that was long ago. Is there an easier way to do it these days?
so to tell you, I haven't investigated this. Go and do this homework. But there are tools out there that are apps that you can actually do it, and you can allocate certain things every month. And as you download it, it automatically sends it to an account that you've allocated.
Okay.
I haven't used one. I've never seen one, but I have heard of them. So I think there's some, you can go and do some.
I've actually done it on FNB, Capitec, and Standard Bank. They all have incredible apps that, every month, let's say I have a debit order that goes through, it knows it's for security and it puts it under there.
Yeah.
So all your apps will have a device.
And then you can assign the others that are not allocated. Yeah. Any other questions on budgets? We'll have more time at the end if we'll come back to it. Okay, let's go, Keeks. Okay, I want to talk about debt. Okay, and for people, I want to start with the definition of debt. Okay, so a sum of money that is owed or due, the state of owing money, the amount owed by the borrower to the lender, or an obligation. Okay, so just so that we're all on the same page as to what debt is. And it comes in many, many, many forms. So a loan is debt, a mortgage is debt, a car loan is debt, car hire purchase is debt, a credit card with your bank is debt, a store card that you buy clothes on is debt. Okay, any transaction where you take something but don't actually hand over money for it at the time is debt. Okay, you pay it off over a period of time. So I think we all are aligned to that. Next, Keys. Okay, this is the slide that I have to tread carefully with. Okay, I'm an accountant. Okay, my background. There are times in life where debt has a real value. Okay, especially in a business context, when you're trying to finance working capital, when you're trying to grow a business very quickly, etc., etc. But there's a lot of work that goes into that to make sure that that debt is repayable. Okay, so I don't want to stand here, and I'm being very vulnerable and open, and say debt is 100% bad. There are times where in life debt can be used well, okay? But I believe that in a Christian context, okay, we should aim to not have debt in our lives. Okay, does everyone resonate with that? It's a hard thing, but it's the reality. Okay. So I put down, okay, and I wrote the reason, the heading of that thing, a possible reason to have debt. Not, but if you are growing a valuable business, if there's a business that has value and you are growing that business and you are a business owner like 6 or 7 of you are here, and there's value in that business, most of the time, and if you don't have debt, brilliant. Most of the time, there will be some sort of debt assigned to that business. Okay, and paying off an asset, a car or a house. And I still believe that these are opportunities where we can minimize our debt, okay, and we can, even in some instances, not have debt in these areas. So it's not like hey, go free for all. I believe that the goal is to not. But if you've got debt that is backed by an asset, something that holds value, that if you sold that asset, you could settle the debt. Okay, that's what I'm trying to kind of get across. Okay, debt, in my view, and I hope everyone shares the same view, is not a good idea. Okay, where you are buying things that I call consumerist, okay, or are trying to live up with the Joneses, or instant gratification. I don't know what else to call it. Okay, you're buying stuff, for example, clothes on credit cards, shoes. You're going on holiday on debt. Okay, that is like, it's not a great idea. I know I'm saying things pretty straight, okay? But if that's what you're doing, I would like to say, look at your budget again, okay? You know, buying presents on debt, luxury items, bicycles and boats, phones and iPads on debt. Okay, I know every phone contract has an element of debt attached to it. Okay, but if your 2-year contract is up, why are you getting the next phone and paying the next debt? Okay, why don't you just use the same phone for the next 2 years and go onto a data contract? Okay, games, toys. Okay, that list is endless. Okay, but if you are in that space of buying those sort of things on debt and credit, I really challenge you, okay, to review what that looks like. Because it's not it's not an easy to say, but I think the challenge is there, and I think that's your homework, to go and look at what of those things you are buying in debt, what I call luxury items, or items that don't hold a longer term value. Okay, next one, please. Okay, questions to ask. Oh, hello. Next, please, sorry. Okay, I've spoken about that. Is it an asset or expense? Does it have value? Is it holding value, okay, over a period of time? Or once you've eaten it or worn it twice, it's got no value? Okay. Next, Keeks. Okay, is it long-term or short-term? Is that item around for 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Or is it gone within a few months? Ask that question, okay, before you buy something on credit or with debt. Okay, does the asset backing the debt hold value? Can I sell the asset and settle the debt 100%? So if I get into a situation, and what I'm talking about is really having the ability to make your own financial decisions. If I get into a situation where actually I need to sell my car, can I sell my car and recover the money, settle the debt, and be in a no worse off situation? Ask yourself that question. Okay, next one. Does the time frame of the debt, and I'll get into details of this, seem excessive, or does it seem reasonable? So I challenge people that are buying houses over 30 years. Okay, try and work that out. If you buy a house over 30 years, what that's going to cost you in interest. And I would say it's excessive, my view. Okay, if you're buying a car over 7 years, it's excessive. Is your car going to be worth anything after 7 years? Okay, yeah. Do I need this right now? I'll talk a bit about delayed gratification later. Do I have to have it now? And a lot of the time, our debt decisions are because we don't want to wait a year to have a bigger deposit or to be able to put more down on it, or we want the next model up rather than having this model. So we want to spend more. Do I need this right now? Ask that question. Okay, debt, things to watch out for and understand. Okay, Keys, next one. Okay, I'm getting into some of the, I hope this is useful for people. Some people will find it pretty boring, but interest rates, there are two types of interest rates. There's a fixed interest rate and a variable interest rate. Okay, so when you are getting into debt, understand which one you're signing up for. A variable interest rate goes up and down as the repo rate changes. As the governor decides it changes, so your interest rates payments will go up. If you want to fix it at the beginning, you can fix it, but you'll probably pay a higher rate, but it will be fixed over 5 years. So as an example, if you want to buy a car at 11% interest, you could probably fix it at 13 as an example. It might be different. You'd probably fix it at 13 and you'll pay 13 over 5 years percent. But if you pay 11 now, you'll get the benefits. It might go down to 9, but if it goes up to 16, when you fix it, you stay at 13. Okay, so for budgeting, it's nice to fix it. So I hope that's a little tip for people. Understand, is it fixed or variable? If it's variable, you've got the upside risk, interest rates go up. You've got the downside risks if the interest rate goes down. Okay, your risk profiles with debt is obviously if you've got a high risk, you're going to pay a higher interest rate. Okay, people that have a good credit rating will have a lower interest rate. People with a bad credit rating, or if you're younger, generally, unfortunately, you'll have a higher interest rate. Okay, and interest income. Okay, I want to challenge people to understand what they're paying on their debt, and if they've got cash invested somewhere in a bank account, what percentage income are you earning on the cash you've got versus what percentage income are you paying on the debt that you have? So do that working. Go and understand it. There's a whole lot of decisions you have to make as to what to do with that. But I can almost bet that you're paying more on the debt as an interest rate than what you're earning on the income. Okay, let's go. Okay, admin fees. In debt, there's often a lot of fees, and they often get capitalized to your debt. So you think you're buying a car for 300,000, you're actually ending up paying 315,000, and they capitalize that, and you pay a loan on that. Okay, so there's on-road fees, there's this fee, there's that fee, there's a monthly admin fee, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so there's a lot to look into there. Okay, this is an interesting one. Who knows what access finance is? An access bond. Do you know what an access bond is? Okay, so I want to share something with you. I've been helping someone recently. Okay, access finance, all that access finance is the ability for you to, if you've got a debt, let's call it 100,000, and you've got 50,000 Rand in cash, that's sitting somewhere else, you can put it into your debt, you pay a lower interest rate on that debt, but you still have access to that 50,000. So it's not sitting as a saving in my cash, I'm offsetting it against my debt, but I still have access to it. I've still got liquidity on that money. Okay, so right now I've been helping someone. They've got a bond and they've got some money that they've managed to save. But how they set up their bond, and they can change it, but it's proving rather difficult, is they didn't have access to it. So they've got this bond, and they've got this money and they can't put it into the other. They can do it, but they will lose access to it. They will lose the liquidity of that, of having that money or that cash available. So one thing I do challenge you guys on, if you're going to buy a car, if you're going to buy a house, understand whether it's an access bond or an access loan, that you can put money into it, but as you've put the money in, you can also have the ability to take that money out when you need it. And what that does is it saves your interest every month. Okay. So, but talk to your bankers or your financial planners or whatever, but it's an important understanding of debt when you're taking debt out is to whether it's accessible or not. Okay. Are there any questions on that point? Because it is quite a technical point, but it's an important point. Yes, Lee? Yes. Yes, and put it into there. Yeah. It's the same, or you save it. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. So the danger of using it is obviously if something goes wrong with the asset that's backing that debt, okay, that money's sitting in there. So that's the danger of it, that effectively at a point in time that money is paid off that debt. So let's say an extreme example, if you pass away, that debt is paid off, okay, that cash is then probably no longer accessible. um, it'll be taken at that point in time. And then also, if something happens, like you can't make your repayments or you don't repay in certain months, that amount that you think is X will reduce over time. So if you don't make 3 payments and you think I've got 30,000 sitting there and each month is 10, 10, 10, then suddenly that 30 is gone. Okay. So there are some negatives to it, okay, but I think it's important to do some research and understanding on it. Yes, you know? Yes. Fixed bond. So no, you drop the interest repayment because now the money. So you owe less. So the money that is getting charged to you every month, okay, will be worked out on a lesser number. Okay, so instead of in my example, if you had 100 and you put in 50, it's now calculating it on the 50 and not the 100. So you're saving an interest expense. That's what you're trying to do. And the theory behind it is that if you're saving 11% on your interest on your bond, but you're only earning 6% on your thing. Yeah, okay. But that's all that you've got to talk to your banks about. That's why I said you've got to understand what your terms and conditions are from it. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, Rich? Yeah, but you've got to often, it doesn't always, okay, so it works both ways. Some banks will do it automatically and other banks won't. So it won't, like my bank, mine won't reduce automatically. It does, yes. Yes. But they don't do your recalc. That's the whole idea of access. They don't do a recalc. So it's just sitting there and you have access to that money. Mm. Yes. Yeah, on your bank statement, it'll come to 0 and you will see 9 years, but they don't re-rate. They don't go in and make you say, okay, now because you're paying that, it will be done in 9 years. That's the benefit of access. It's still calculating it for 20 years, but you may pay it off earlier. You want to pay it off. Yeah. Okay. Okay, we need to move, guys. Okay, let's go, Keeks. Okay, using debt to settle debt. This is a big no-no, guys. If you are using a credit card to settle another credit card, or you're using a credit card to settle a store card, or you're using a credit card to settle a home loan, or whatever it is, whew, I really urge you to go and see a financial planner. Okay, like that is like where we're at. Okay, if you are taking debt to settle debt, it's a big red flag. Okay, so please look at your budgets and realize, the severity of when you're in that situation. Okay, next one. Okay, can you really afford it? Ask the question, can I really afford this right now before you go into debt? Next one. Okay, the debt trap, never getting out of debt. Delayed gratification, don't go after the next best thing. Okay, so the debt trap really is about, how do I have a plan to reduce the amount of debt that I pay? And if, like, let's take for example a car. If I've paid my car off after 5 years, now I think, hey, I'm debt free. Hey, I want the next Range Rover or Land Rover or whatever, Ford Ranger or whatever, and you sell that one and you buy the next one, and bang, you're back into debt again. Okay, it's like, are we perpetuating our life cycle of debt, is my question. And is it just because we're going after the next best thing, or we're not willing to wait 2 years? If you have 2 years of no car repayments, imagine the deposit you can put on your next car when you do buy it. And then your debt repayments are lower, and it's that cycle of trying to get out of it. Balloon payments, okay, I'll talk about an example of a balloon payment just now, but effectively you take out a car loan and you say at the end, I'll pay 70,000 as an example on my car loan at the end of it. How are you ever going to afford the 70,000 when you get to the end of your payments? Okay, and then what it forces you to do is take out another loan to then settle the balloon at the end. Okay, so my view, balloon payments are bad. If you need a balloon payment, rather buy a cheaper car or wait a year before you can afford to buy a car without a balloon payment. Okay, my view. Okay, but there are people that go for them. Next one. Okay, how long could you service your debt for if you had no income? Okay, ask that question. If you lost your job today, how many months could I survive servicing my current debt? Okay. Next one. Okay, debt holds us down. It prevents us having the ability to choose. I'm not going to take too much time on this point. I did speak about it in my preach the other day. But the ability to choose, okay, when we have debt, and it's that whole slave and being a servant to the debt, okay, we don't have a choice. Okay, next one. Okay, debt costs money in the form of interest and fees. Do we all agree that having debt costs us money? Okay, so if I buy a car for 300, that car I'm not actually paying 300,000 for, I'm probably paying 420,000 for it. Do we agree on that point? Okay, so debt is not free. Okay, next one. Okay, other charges, be careful. Buying and selling a house, commission, transfer costs, certificate costs, maintenance, insurance. There's a whole lot of other things that come with buying a car, buying a house, buying a business, buying whatever you want to, legal fees. There's all sorts of other things that come in. A lot of them often just get capitalized. So you take out a loan for X, and before you know it, that loan is a little bit bigger than X. Okay, next one. Okay, read the fine print on a contract. My dad always used to tell me this. It's, yeah, I can't say anything more, but read the fine print. Know what you're signing up for. And I know even myself, it's hard because that stuff, there's so much of it. Okay, but know what's there. Know what is in there. Okay, let's go, Keegs. Okay, just go through these. Okay, what impacts the size of my debt repayments every month? Okay, the time period. 4 years or 7 years for a car repayment. Okay, and I'm going to take that example just now and take you through some examples. I'm using a car repayment as an example, but it applies to everything. The size of your deposit. The bigger your deposit you can put down, okay, the less your debt, the less your repayments that you have to make every month. The start date of the payments. This is a small one, but I learned this one, okay? It makes a small difference. But if you take out a loan now, let's say the 13th of November, and the bank says to you, when do you want to pay it, at the end of the month or the beginning of the month? And if you say the end of the month, they're probably only going to take it off at the end of December. Okay, but now you charged interest on all that time. Okay, so in most contracts, you'll see, do you want it to start at the first or the end? Okay, bearing in mind, you're paying interest on all that stuff in the beginning. Okay, so just it's a small number, but it does have an impact. Interest rates, if your interest rate goes up or down, your payments go up and down. Balloon payments, the bigger your balloon payment, the smaller your monthly payment. But I'm going to talk to balloon payments. I've got an example of it. I want to show you the pitfalls of balloon payments. We all think a balloon payment is great, okay? And then it comes at the end. Okay, I'll show you that. Fees and charges that get capitalized costs. Okay, go back, keys one, sorry. Okay, so that there is what impacts the size of your monthly repayments. And we all get caught up, what can I afford every month? What can I pay? And we try and make the payment the focal point. Okay, but we're not thinking about the actual thing and the time period and what the actual asset is that we're buying and how long we're going to be in debt for, or how much debt that we've got. Okay, let's go, Keeks. Okay, so what I've done, okay, I need this thing now. And this is a lot of detail, guys, but I want to share so that people can learn. Okay, so this here, how you read these slides, I've got about 5 of these slides, and then I'm nearly done. Okay, changing the repayment period, which is the last slide. Okay, I'm going to take you through examples of each one. This is a 300,000 Rand. It's an example of buying a car, 300,000 Rand car. The interest rate's 11%. If I pay it off over 4 years, 5 years, or 6 years. Okay, so we all look at this number and we say, hey, I can afford 5,700 Rand. I can't afford this, but you're buying the same car. Okay, but I can afford this one. Okay, so what I just want to share on this slide is, how do we get out of the debt cycle? How do we get out of debt? We buy what we can afford, and we try and do it over the shortest time period. Okay, that's my heart for you guys. Okay, that's what I want to share. And if we don't have to, if this can be zero, that's what we want to be at. Okay, that's the ultimate goal. Okay, but what I want to show you here is, if you buy this car, you're going to pay 72,000 Rand in interest over 4 years. It's going to cost you 372. The same car over 6 years is going to cost you 411,000. The exact same car. Okay, so effectively you're paying an extra 40,000 Rand for a car just by extending the time period, but we're happy because it makes our budget. Okay, and that's the tension that we have. So let's go back. Delayed gratification. Why do we need the car now? Why do we need to pay? If you can't afford, if you want to be this, take this number and put it there and say, what is this number that I need to be at to take this? Okay, I can buy a 250,000 Rand car. That's what you need to do. You work it the other way around. Not let the car salesman tell you, hey, this is how we're going to do it. Okay. I know it seems straight talking, but it's like we have to try to delayed gratification. I'm not going to say any more. Okay. So longer time, lower monthly payment, total cost of ownership increases over a longer time. We have a higher interest cost, and the vehicle value is lower when we finally settle the debt because it's older. Okay. Oh, how do I do this? Next one, Keegs. Okay, is this the second one? Okay, changing deposit value. Okay, so what I've done here is I've left the interest rate the same. I've left it all over 4 years. So I've left those the same. Okay, what I've done is I've put in a deposit of 50 grand and 100 grand. Okay, what happens when I put down a deposit over 4 years? Remember this number in the last slide was 5,400 rand. If you can put down a deposit on that, well, you can come in with your monthly budget, but you've got to save for your deposit. So effectively, delayed gratification again. Rather save for this, okay, over another year or two, and then buy what you want within your budget. What does it do to your monthly payment? It brings the first one down by 1,300 rand and the next one down by 2,600. Your total interest saved is 24,000 over the 4 years. Okay, next, Keeks. Okay, changing the start date. I said to you this is small, but on a 300,000 rand car at 11% over 4 years, if I start the deposit at the end of the month, okay, I pay that much in interest. If I started at the beginning of the month, I save 3,500 rand over 4 years. It's a small amount, but it makes a difference. If you take this and multiply this by 6 at a 1.8 million rand house, what does that number then look like? Okay, so the bigger the numbers, it does change it. So it has an impact. It's a small impact. Okay. Keegs next. Oh, sorry. Okay, changing interest rate. This is what I was speaking to about variable versus fixed interest rate. So I've kept everything the same, and I've said, okay, there's my main one that I started with, the middle one, 11%. Okay, what happens if my interest rate goes down? Okay, that's brilliant. I'm going to save 400 rand a month if it goes down by 3%. So your repayments change when your interest rate changes. If it goes up by 4%, you've got a 600 rand increase. Okay, so be careful when you're going into debt. Don't maximize where you're at. You have to have leeway in your budget. Okay, if you're going to maximize, you've got this risk. If you're on a variable interest rate, you've got this risk that it could go up, and we don't control that. Okay, so what is the model that you've got? Okay, we can afford it if it goes to 13%, as an example. Okay, so changing interest rate. Just over here, I said here, what is the buffer in your budget or affordability if interest rates change? Okay, next one. Okay, this is a biggie, guys. This is the balloon payment one, and I think who doesn't know what a balloon payment is apart from what I've said tonight? Okay, so we've all heard of balloon payments. Okay, so a balloon payment on a car, mostly in vehicle finance, okay, is an amount of money that, here I've put it at 75 and 45, is an amount of money when you get to the end of your term of your payments that you then need to come up with. So on month 48, if I've got a 4-year term, on 48 months, they say the bank says to me, right, your car is fully paid, but you still owe me 75,000. Write me a check today for 75,000 rand. What are you going to do? Have you got the 75 saved up? Are you going to refinance it? What are you going to do? Okay, so it's almost this whole thing of, hey, the problem's coming 4 years' time. We'll worry about it then. Okay, So please be aware of what balloon payments have an impact. And again, we all think, okay, are there any car salesmen here? Okay, everyone, the car salesman will want you to afford the car. How can I afford this car? He will want you to buy a more expensive car. And you'll look at this and you'll say, yo, 6.5, I can afford that. But you don't know that you've got, well, you do know, but you forget about the 75 that you've actually got to pay anyway. So the difference in these two amounts, the 6.5 and the 7.7, is this 75 plus interest every month that you should be paying. Okay, so it has if you know that you're going to get a massive windfall in 2 years' time, maybe there's a place for it. But you're going to do a lot of convincing to convince me that it's the right thing. Okay, it should be avoided at all costs, in my view. This is a debt trap of note. Okay, you get to the end of it, you're going to take out debt to refinance it. Or sell the car. A lot of people end up selling the car. How do you finance the 75? Well, I sell the car and it's only worth 100. I come away with 25, whatever it is. Okay, so the total payments, we think we've got a deal here, okay, but actually we're paying more because I'm financing this 75 throughout the term. Okay, so you're actually paying 387 for the car in this scenario versus 372 in that scenario. Okay, because you are financing this debt throughout the 4 years of the term. Okay, any questions on that? Yes. Absolutely, read the fine print. They all they care about is this number. I'm telling you guys, a car salesman focuses on this number. And he says, right, you can afford it. I've got you. You're covered. And you don't even know this is there. Okay. Okay, next one. Go back one. Okay, I've spoken about the refinancing of the balloon at the end. Okay, that's often the debt trap. I think I said that. Okay, next one. Okay, so those are all my examples on finance and what changes it and that. Okay, what I did here, it's a very basic repayment schedule, but I wanted people to understand how a repayment schedule works. Okay, and I know it's simple, but I have this heart to share knowledge. You can go and do this at home. You can go into Excel and you can do this at home. Okay, so on the 300,000 Rand car, in month 1 I owe that amount. Okay, they're telling you that you have to pay 6,500, which you have to pay every month to month 48. This example has got a balloon payment of 75 at the end. Okay, so it rounds to a nice round number. And what happens in month 1 is your interest payment is 2,750 Rand of your payment. But by the end of it, by month 48, your interest is 740 because your capital balance is much lower. So that's how a basic repayment schedule looks. Okay, the bigger your outstanding balance, the bigger your interest portion, the less your payment impacts your outstanding balance. So you have the same payment every month, assuming the interest rate doesn't change and you don't have a variable interest rate. I've spoken about the changing interest value each month, and that comes down. Literally every month it comes down slightly. Okay, every single month it comes down as your balance drops. More capital gets paid later on as interest reduces. So in this scenario here, the second to last payment, you're paying 5,800 Rand of capital because your interest is so low. In that scenario, you're only paying like 3,800 Rand of capital. Okay, I just wanted to share this for people's benefit to understand that interest in the beginning is very high. Okay, so if you are getting out of contracts in the first half, you've paid a lot of interest, but very little capital. Okay, next one. I think this is my last slide, if I remember correctly. Okay, I do want to touch on contentment. Okay, I've spoken a lot tonight about delayed gratification. Okay, and I do believe as Christians, we shouldn't be chasing the next best thing. We shouldn't be looking, okay, for trying to keep up with the Joneses. We shouldn't be wanting or going after our needs now. Like, I want this now. Okay? And in that, making bad financial decisions. In Hebrews 13, verse 5, it says, "Keep your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have. For he has said, I'll never leave you or forsake you." And I think the word contentment is really what I want to share tonight. We have to be content with what we've got. And if we can live in a state of contentment, it really makes some of these decisions a lot easier. Okay, some practical ideas on debt, and I'll be finished in 3 minutes, Steve. Okay. Understand what debt you have. So go home, if you've got homework, go home, write down all the types of debt you've got. What is the interest rate that you're paying on that debt? How much do I owe on that debt? How much are my monthly payments? Etc., etc. Okay, put it down there so that you fully understand what that looks like. Okay, understand what interest rates you are paying. That's critical. Okay, next one. What is your most expensive debt? Okay. You might have a debt for 10 grand. You might have a debt for 100 grand. But your most expensive debt might be your 10 grand debt. Okay. It's not necessarily the debt that's the biggest. That's your most expensive. May not be the one where you owe the most. Okay, next. Okay, set goals. What do you want to do with your debt? What are your goals to pay off that debt quicker, better, etc.? Okay, not buy certain things on a credit card or a loan. Pay off something quicker. Do you need to change your lifestyle? Access finance. Are you able to pay off something early and still have access to the money? Do you still have liquidity? I've gone through that. Save for a larger deposit on a big purchase, delayed gratification. Can you hold out for a bit longer to save more money, to put down more cash, or buy the thing cash, then rather go into debt now and be stuck in the debt cycle? Okay, that's a massive challenge. I really challenge you to that. And like I said in the car example, well, if you can afford the 5,000, buy a car that costs you the payment for 5,000. Don't buy the next model up and then put in a balloon and do it over 72 months. It's not helping the position of debt. What do you do with a bonus or windfall or salary increase? Okay, I challenge you guys on salary increases. What are you doing with your salary increase every year? How do you budget it? Okay, lots of giggles and laughs. That's your fault, Hugh. Okay, what do we do with a bonus? Maybe, just putting it out there, this is the year that you take your bonus and don't go on holiday and have Christmas with the family at home and put it into your debt. It might be a boring option, but it's that one thing that could trigger a change going forward. How do I budget it? How do I use it? Okay, and the last point, guys, and Steve put it very nicely. Okay, there are lots of financial planners out there. There are people that can sit down with you and look at your financial situation that will cost you, in most cases, nothing. Okay? They will try and sell you some products. Okay? There's no doubt about that. But I do challenge you to have conversations with people. So find a financial planner, okay? And go and have a discussion with a financial planner about your affairs. Okay, sit down with them and the reason I did budgets, okay, the first thing a financial planner will want you to do is to do a budget. Okay, they will ask you to do a budget. So the first thing they'll do, and the second thing they'll do is say, please write down all your assets and liabilities. Okay, so hopefully you can get onto that now. Okay, but go and sit with a financial planner, okay, and understand. They will ask you the hard questions. What are your goals? Where do you want to go? What age do you want to retire? Etc., etc. Do you want to go and live overseas? Do you want to buy a Ferrari? Do you want to own a house? They'll ask you all those questions. Okay, but go and take the time to sit down with a financial planner and look at where your finances are at. And as I said, they'll try and sell you insurance and an investment and a this and a that. You can say no. Okay? Or you can say, actually, maybe that does fit in with where I am at the moment. Okay, but there is a lot of people out there that are way better qualified than me, okay, of actually processing your situation that applies to you personally. Okay, that they can really, really add value. And I really implore you to do that. Or if you've got, in my case, my dad was amazing. Okay, my dad, I lost him a few months ago, but he was incredible in taking me through this kind of stuff. Yes, I've got a financial planner, but my dad taught me a lot of this stuff. Maybe it's your dad that you can sit down with and do it, or your mom, or your uncle, or a friend, okay? But sit down and talk about this stuff with someone and process it. But I really do think a financial planner, especially if you're in a tight space, go and sit with a financial planner and process how you can get out of it. Okay, is that clear? What Steve said at the beginning, I've tried to impart knowledge and practical ideas. I don't want you saying, hey, Justin said this, that's what I must go and do about access finance. I'm telling you, there's a thing called access finance out there. Go and research it and understand what it is. Okay, but go and sit, if you want to, with a financial planner and actually look at your personal situation going forward. Steve, I'm done.